So this video is going to show you how to take your data that's already in Excel and actually randomly sample out the data if you need to do this. Okay, so just to make sure, if you're here, you should know that you have to randomly sample your data. Not everybody does. Okay, there's two scenarios where you have to randomly sample your data. The most likely is you got your data from the internet. Okay, if you got your data from a survey, you probably don't have to randomly sample it. All right, you should double check before you do this. All right, so I'm going to randomly sample it. I'm going to go to wherever my data is. I've got my sample data here that I made up for my project that you'll see me do in all my videos. And my project is on, I collected the gender of people, their age, and the number of pairs of shoes that they own. All right, I modeled two projects in my videos. It doesn't matter for this part right here. So I collected a lot of data. I collected 153 pieces of data because the top row is the labels. So there's 153 pieces of data. So no matter which project I'm doing, I have way too much data. All right, I only need 40 for a chi-squared, and I need 100 I need 40 for correlation coefficient, I need 100 for chi-squared. So either way, I need to randomly sample my data. So right now, you should probably just have one tab that says raw data. Ignore these two. You'll see where I create those in another video. I'm going to add a tab, and I'm going to call it sample data. And I double-clicked on it to give it a name. All right, so now I'm going to fill this in a little bit. All right, but for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here into my raw data. And what I'm going to put here is I'm going to put random number in my top column, or sorry, in my top of my wherever the end of your data is. Some of you may have 5 or 6 columns there, random number. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Excel generate a random number for each one of these pieces of data from my survey. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to hit the equal. So I'm going to type equal. And then Excel does all kinds of formulas. You'll see me use Excel to do lots of things in my sample videos for this project. And I can make Excel do a million different things. It's a super great thing to know how to use. Just in your daily life in terms of budgets and stuff. So it's a great tool. So I'm going to type in equals, and then I'm going to type rand for random number. And then I have to put in parentheses like that to tell it. Usually you can put different arguments inside of the parentheses, but if you don't put the parentheses there, it won't do a random number. And then it's going to hit enter. And it's going to give me a decimal because I didn't tell it that I want it to be any specific number between numbers. So it gives me a decimal between 0 and 1 when I don't tell it where to put the numbers. What I'm going to do then is highlight the box. And in the bottom corner, there's a little tiny green square. And if I hold my mouse over it, it turns to a black plus. I'm going to click and hold down on that green square. And then I'm going to drag this down all the way down to the bottom to my last piece of data there. So I'm going to slowly go down, and I'm being careful. So I get down to the bottom. And then I'm going to go back up here. And I'm going to just get it to where I want it and let it go. It then fills a random number in for every single one of these. Now, every time I do anything, if I go over here and just type in X, it changes the random number every time I hit enter. All right, so I don't want it to do that because it keeps changing the random numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those random numbers and I'm going to freeze them. The easiest way to freeze them without going into some long, complicated thing is I'm going to go up to the column heading. I'm going to click on it so it highlights the whole column. And then I'm going to copy it. All right, now you can right click and do copy. I usually just hit Control and C. It should outline it in kind of that little traveling thing over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here in any one of these columns. I'm just going to go to G. I'm going to click in there. I'm going to right click. And then I'm going to paste with this second thing right here. It'll say values. And what that's going to do is just paste the values into there. All right, so now you can see as I do stuff, if I type in an X and hit enter, the random numbers in D keep changing, but in G, they don't. They froze. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight G. I'm going to copy G. I'm going to click on D, and I'm going to paste by just doing Control V, the random numbers into D. Now they're frozen. All right, so now they're frozen, so they're not going to change. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to organize this data so that it is so that it's in numeric order based on those random numbers. Okay, this is a way to randomly get some data out of here. So I'm just I want all of this data to be organized. So I'm gonna click that little box so it highlights everything. I'm gonna go to data and then sort right here. Now I gotta tell it what I want it to do. So I want it to sort by, and this right here is important. My data has header rows. That means it has names. So I'm gonna click on that. Okay, I want it to sort by the random number, smallest to largest. All right, I can change different things here, but I want random number, smallest to largest. I'm gonna hit OK. And then what it does is it brings my data and it counts it in numeric order. So Excel organized stuff for me. So what I like to do here to make my life easier also is I put rank. All right, rank. And then I go 1, 2. And then what I want it to do is count up from there. So I hold in this, I go to the one box and I highlight those two boxes by clicking and dragging this down, holding down on the mouse and dragging it down. And then if I go to this bottom corner again here, this little green box, and I make my plus go to that black thing, if I drag down, it'll start counting for me. So I'm just going to drag all the way down to the bottom. And it will count my data for me. All right, so there's 153. So it randomly gave this data numbers. All right, I gave them whole numbers instead of those long numbers there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the data, my sample data, into this right here, and that'll be the data that I use. So I'm going to transfer my sample data. So let's say I'm doing, I'm doing a correlation coefficient. I'm going to scroll down here. I need 40 pieces of data. So I'm going to go to number 40. I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to hit Control C, copy it. I'm going to come to my sample data. I'm going to go in the top corner here, and I'm going to hit Control V, paste it. Okay, now I'm going to double click on the column so it makes sense. That's a little too small and make it a little bigger. Okay, pairs of shoes. And then I don't need these random numbers anymore. I can leave them there if I want. I don't need them. So let's say I get rid of them. So I just clicked on D and then held down and dragged over to E. I'm just going to right click down here and click delete because I don't need them anymore. The random numbers are here if I ever needed to go back to them. If you're doing a chi-squared project, you need 100 pieces of data. So you do the same thing all the way down to 100, put them into the sample data. All right. When you do your project, you're going to put the sample data in here, and then you're going to use the sample data to do the rest of the information that you need to do.